All right, so the recording has begun. All right, thank you so much for joining in. Everybody who joined in from different locations, first of all, welcome to this another episode of Know Your Senior series. This is the sixth episode. Today we have with us Daksh Mehta, our student at KEDGE Business School, International Business, correct, Daksh?
Masters in management. Masters in management.
Masters in management. He is doing masters in management at KEDGE Business School. He was an M1 student. Now he'll be going to M2. So it would be great opportunity for all of us to hear directly from the horse's mouth and from for you guys to ask questions directly to Daksh. So Daksh, over to you. Please go ahead. Talk us about your experiences, why you chose KEDGE, what are you doing right now, and everything else.
Okay, I'll try to keep it short and simple so I'll let everybody have questions. So my name is Daksh Mehta. I'm from Sirsa, Haryana, and currently I'm doing masters in management in KEDGE Marseille. I came to KEDGE in September 2021, almost 1.5 years back, and since then I've completed my gap year in year 2022. I did all my internships and currently back to campus preparing to finish my M1 for Marseille. And talking about this 1.5 years, the experience is phenomenal. Like I've been loving this decision of coming to France in general, having that cultural shock, accepting that cultural shock, and doing the internship was the highlight for my experience here. And for so far, I've been just loving this decision, learning a lot of things. And yeah, seems like 1.5 years passed by in 2 months. So it's super fast, super in learning.
Right, perfect. Thank you so much. That was crisp. You come from Sirsa, right? That's
Yeah.
Haryana, very close to Punjab. Now that
Oh yeah.
region in India is very famous for going to study abroad in countries like Canada and Australia. And I know I met you in November and December, and you told me the reasons why you chose France. But for our audience today, and probably in future as well, why did you choose France?
I would say going to Canada and going to UK would be a could be a rather easy option for me. I have a lot of friends there. A lot of my classmates always go there. Like it's Haryana and Punjab. People are just fascinated to go there. But for me, I really wanted to choose something specific, something more intense, more learning intensive. I wanted to learn new culture, new language. I want to have a different education system, not just this Canadian entrance. So I think I chose France. Learning the language is like my first priority. Coming here just to make my time a little tough, to make me like more intensively learning new things, to have that cultural shock. So that's why I chose like center of Europe, like coming to France. Let's have this. Let's do this. And so far, loving this decision.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that answer. Why masters in management? A lot of people in India are not even aware what is masters in management. Of course, we know what is an MBA, what are other business programs, but what is MIM? First of all, you have to mention why did you choose MIM, but before that, if you could explain what is MIM.
Okay, so like the full program, Grande Ecole Masters in Management. So it's a specialized course in KEDGE. In general, in France, it's I would say a little more reputed course compared to MSc in any other field. It's considered more reputable, and I think it's very to make it in like super simple words. It's very similar to MBA, but here you don't require work experience, but more or less the structure is pretty similar. In 1 year you learn the general management, and for the next year, for your M2 second year of masters, you choose your specialization and you go deep within the subject and understand thoroughly. So it's very close to MBA, but the people around me don't really have work experience, and MIM doesn't really have an eligibility criteria of you should be having a work experience before. I think this is specifically really good for students who want to pursue either who want to pursue masters directly after their graduations, or people who want to change from maybe engineering to masters. This is like perfect course. Starts from basic and then go in depth of whatever you want to learn in. So this is the course, and why I chose for it. It's I think the first is the good reputation. The course is widely acceptable and widely uh, valued in whole of Europe, where I see myself working in a couple of years. So I wanted to choose this course, and this gives us a general management studies for 1 year and then a specialization. So it gave me a little time to understand what really I like to study. I also took a gap year. I also like tried working in the field I thought I would be like love to work. I realized like I'll give you my example. I did my first internship in marketing. Realized marketing is not for me. Maybe like thanks to my course, I chose masters in management. I was in general management. For the second internship, I did in operations and business analytics, data analysis. Realized I really loved it, and this course allowed me to change my subjects to more operations and data analysis side of subjects. And yeah, I think that's the advantage, the most biggest advantage of this course, to make you help you realize what exactly your field of interest is. That's why I chose subject. Okay, we continue.
Sorry, I
Yeah,
was
now
on
we can.
mute. But thank you so much, Daksh, for that answer. That is very interesting to know that you chose a gap year. Now, that is not a very common thing in India or US or even in other countries.
Okay.
So, if you could touch upon why did you take a gap year and what is a gap year? Because a lot of students would not be able to comprehend what is a gap year. So, how does the gap year work? Why do people take it? Why you took it?
So gap year, it's pretty self-explanatory what it's gap year. So the gap year is a break between your studies. It could be after first semester or it could be after first year of studies, depending on your course and the journey you choose, the short track or the long track. So it's a gap that you will take usually for 1 year, and in that 1 year you can do literally almost whatever you want. You can go and learn the language. You can go and do maybe a part-time or like full-time job, like a CDD kind of a job. You can do that, or you can do an internship. And I took this gap year. I wanted to have this break because I think studies were going way too fast. I think I wanted to take the break. I wanted to absorb the French culture through the phase of internships. I did 2 internships. I started looking for internship. To be honest, wasn't that easy. But eventually, I found my first internship. Did that internship in a French startup. Amazing cultural shock. How like from ground from grass to the sky, it was so different from any other company I've worked in India. Really good experience. It was like 9, 10 people of 100% French people working in a French startup. Did that. Then a different company, a small medium enterprise, again a French company, international experience. One of the best experiences I had in France. So this gap year, after looking at this helped me to understand what courses I like to study, what subjects I like to study, what field of expertise I want to go for my M2, and just helped me to learn the cultural language even better. And yeah, that's it. Sorry.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for the explanation. I hope that is very clear to all the students, especially for MIM, because that is where the gap year is possible. So I hope that is clear for everyone. Also, you mentioned upon the fact that finding internships are not easy, especially when you don't speak French, right? So how did you land the internship? How tough or easy was it? What were the tools you used? And when you joined the internship, you touched upon the culture and everything, but if you could talk more about the timings of the job, what was your job, what was the location, and we don't want to know the exact salary, but if you could also touch upon the average salaries for international students
Okay.
as interns.
Okay, thank you so much. That's a really good question. Talking about internship and finding a job, career, this is the thing I just love to talk about. And me and my friends, we just talk about this the whole day. So, first of all, finding internships in France, it's hard. It's hard for even, I would say, the French speaking population. It's hard to find an internship. But me, like I speak for this level of French, I speak a A2 level of French. That's not quite enough to get a job that easily. So it's not fluent French, but it's hard to find internship. But if you keep trying, you give a lot of interviews. I got rejected from so many interviews before realizing what mistakes I were doing to get an internship. I did a lot of interviews and realized like there is a culture, there is a European culture I'm supposed to give the interview in. It's different from Indians. Like here we have to be like in India we have to be like super formal, we have to be very precise, it's very data oriented. But Europe it was quite different. I learned from my mistakes how to get an internship. I don't know, like I applied for so many internships for to get my first internship. But for my second internship, I hardly applied to like I just applied to a bunch of them because I think I realized where my field of expertise are, how my I'm supposed to construct a resume, how am I supposed to give the uh, interview. Everything was a process. Everything I did. I had a gap year, so I think all of the time, like where I wasn't employed, I wasn't doing my internship. I think even that phase of time, I think I was learning. I was learning from the rejections I was getting every day. I was learning how to make good resume, good interviews. Slowly and slowly, I learned a bit of everything, including French. French classes non-stop, just keep learning, keep pushing. Every time I was just learning French. And few of my internships, they were in English, but the interviewer asked me to have some conversations in French. So slowly, I improved my level of French through interviews as well. Yeah, interviews were also like a really good part of learning, where I learned ton of things, met so many people. I'm still connected. Maybe I wasn't interning with them, but still the managers, I'm still connected with them on LinkedIn. I'm still having a good, like once in a month, we are having a conversation about something. So I think overall, it was really good learning experience of finding an internship. And second is the salaries. I think the minimum salaries, if I'm not wrong, is I think 600 some euros, which is not a lot. But the thing is, nobody gives you 600 euros. Usually, it's like I was an M1 student. Yeah, so internship stipend is different for M1 students, M2. For M2 students, it's a little higher. But I think you should expect, even if you're M1 student, Masters 1 student, I think still you can expect a minimum salary of like maybe 1,000 euros would be a really good average. People can get more of it, but 1,000 euros is a good average you can get in this after inflation accounted. Like stipend has gone higher. It's a good point for us. So 1,000 euros for M1, and I think 1,200 euros for M2 students would be a good average, I would suggest.
All right, perfect. Uh, Now, coming to two more questions, and then, of course, we would open the floor to the audience, and the students would be able to ask you questions. My next question is related to diversity in your classroom and in your campus. Now, in India, we, of course, study with Indian students. We don't have a lot of international students coming to our MBA programs in India. But what was your experience of studying MIM in Marseille? How was diversity in masters in management, and how was diversity on campus?
Okay. Mm, if talking about first diversity in my class specifically, so I would say masters in management, maybe with like some reasons, but it wasn't that good. Like because in my course there were like very few international students. Yeah, there were very few international students. It wasn't the best experience, I would say. I think like the eligibility criteria of MIM was a little high. Like they were like supposed to give an exam and everything. So I would say international students were not a lot. So majorly it was like French. I would say 90% of the people were in French. And yeah, rest of them were like international. There were some exchange students from like different places, Canada, Russia, Brazil, really good. Uh, but yeah, overall, I think specific. This is very specific to my course because I know my friends from other courses. They have a really diverse classroom of like people from literally around the world. Half of the classmates are from different countries, so it's good for them. But for specifically MIM course, I would suggest even for the students who are coming to MIM course, I would like give them majorly your class will be I think for French students. I think it is true. Majorly it is true. Not a lot of international students chose to do MIM, but for the other side, the diversity in campus, yeah, okay, that is something that is really brilliant. Uh, I don't know, in parties or in like student events, you can meet people from around the world. We recently had a cultural event here in KEDGE Marseille. The experience was phenomenal. There were like little stalls of like different culture, different countries are having installed their little cabana or something. Like they introduced to like share their culture, maybe like calligraphy, Chinese calligraphy, or like Brazilian mass. So it was really good. You can find every other culture. Probably I found every like from Japanese to Australian, Canadians, everywhere. So yeah, like even on the like streets of France, if you go work on, there's a high chances that you can find someone talking in a different language, Italian, Spanish, I don't know, maybe South Indian languages, Hindi, Punjabi, everywhere. You can find any languages in France. It's the country's whole is really diverse, and if diversity is something you're looking for, yeah, France is not gonna disappoint you. Diversity is here. The cultural shock will be there.
Perfect. I know. I completely agree with that. Just to add, that MIM program earlier required a GMAT, and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
Indian students going to France did not take GMAT or didn't have GMAT. But now KEDGE has removed the GMAT thing and it has replaced it with KEDGE MIM test. So this year we have a lot of students applying for MIM. So I'm sure, I mean, if I give you a random number, probably we have around 20 students applying from India alone for MIM. And we have some students from Sri Lanka, we have some students from Nepal, Bangladesh, Pakistan. I'm only talking about my region, South Asia. And of
Right.
course, we have the whole world to talk about. But anyway, now coming to my final question, then of course, students would be asking you questions, aspirants and admits would be asking real questions. My next question is, uh, talk about Marseille as a city, because you were in Marseille. We have had episodes with webinars with students from Bordeaux. We've also had Meher from Paris. So, our audience does know about Bordeaux life, accommodation, food options, average expenses, and Paris as well, but probably not for Marseille. You are the first one from Marseille, so we want to hear from you. Where did you live? What was your accommodation? Number one. What is the average expense people can expect in a city like Marseille? And third, and most importantly, how is the city Marseille? You have to touch upon everything: fashion,
Okay.
shopping, food, everything.
Uh, okay, it's a level of pressure that I am representing the city Marseille. Super big city, super big city. So actually, I think I'm a really good person for everyone like who is thinking of maybe choosing between Bordeaux and Marseille, because I did both of my internship in Bordeaux. So I think I spent almost 50-50. I've spent more time in Bordeaux, I think, but I've spent time in both the cities. First, like where I am, I spend most of the time living in Marseille. I also lived in city center. City center, it will be like 400 to 500 euros. Will be an average rent, like 400 to 500 euros of city center rent. Uh, and living in the like suburbs, like very close to campus, there are some student residents. Living here, you can live in cruise. That could be like very cheap. That will be like 270, 260, around below 300 euros. Or you can have like private student accommodation that can go up to 300 or like 400 euros. The student accommodation will be rather cheap. Like if they're charging you 400, they're giving you facilities. They'll give you individual rooms, washrooms. They'll give you more facilities in general. So living in city center will be definitely a little more expensive, but it'll be good experience if you like to go out a lot and everything. Uh, but living close to the campus has their own benefits of coming to the class really early and just spending more time in campus. And specifically now talking about Marseille in general city. So I think after living in Bordeaux for quite some time, I can definitely say Marseille is a big party place. It's a really place with a lot of energy, not just like parties in general in the clubs and everything. It's just like events and everything. It's a place people have a lot of energy. People spend so much time communicating, socializing, much more than Bordeaux for sure. There are people. I think here one more touch of like diversity will be people specifically from the like Africa region. You can find a lot of people from Africa region because it's like the south of France, and then you have Africa. So you can find a lot of people from Africa. So I think that will be a place. There will be some places where you can find a lot of African culture. That part of like Morocco, Algeria. Yeah, a lot of people from there. So overall, the city have a lot of energy. The city is super big, a massive city. Here you can find beaches, you can find mountains, you can find a really good infrastructure. You can find good offices, good companies. You can like the campus. Campus is just phenomenal. I think Marseille campus is one of the best campus. Uh, I don't think like you can find a better campus than KEDGE Marseille because it's so beautiful. Every class has a really big window. It's like one part of the class is just all glass, and from the other side you can just completely see mountains. You can see sunrise. It's just right in like middle of the mountain range. I think it's a national park actually, like the whole college is in. So I think the city, if you're more into city infrastructure, beauty, energy, I think you will definitely love Marseille. It's a city with a lot of cards, lot of elements. You can literally do anything if you want, from really formal to go out and party. There's everything. There is something for everyone in Marseille.
Wow. Thank you so much, Daksh, for that descriptive answer, especially about Marseille. Very nostalgic for me as well because I lived in
Yeah.
Marseille. Although we met in Bordeaux, so I still recall that time. And you are one of those students who have spent time in both the cities, so you would have a better perspective. And all those who are confused because a lot of students usually ask us Marseille or Bordeaux. And I often tell them, watch the YouTube videos, speak to all the alums, speak to all the students, and then decide. But again, since you have lived in both the cities, probably you are the right person. So it would be great to connect with Daksh. We'll share his LinkedIn URL. You can reach out to him, you can connect with him. And of course, if you have any queries and questions, you would be able to ask. Now, let's move to the questions of the aspirants. So anybody who has any questions for Marseille, life, education. But again, as I said, Daksh is one of those students who has lived in both the cities. So even if you're not going to Marseille, you're going to Bordeaux, I think Daksh would be the right person to talk about anything. So please raise your hand. I would call your names and then, of course, you can ask your question. Starting with Arpit. I can see Arpit raised his hand. Arpit, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you, Prayag. So, hi there. Thanks a lot for the session. So, I was wondering, you told me about the rent in Marseille, right? So, I was wondering, like, what do you recommend? Do you recommend that it's better to stay near the college and then commute daily, or to stay far away, not to like save money? Like, how do you see it from a financial POV? Because most of us are taking a loan and coming, so we do try to minimize our cost by all means. So, what do you think is like the experience there? Do people prefer staying right next to the college, even if it's a very high rent, or do they prefer staying like what's like the culture there? What's common?
Um, I would say live close to the campus. Live like as
Mhm.
close as possible. There is cruise. If you
Mhm.
guys don't know, cruise is a government-funded accommodation. So it will be the like, I think the cheapest accommodation you can find in whole of Europe. I might say it's really going to be super cheap. It can go up to like 250 euros for a private room, including washrooms. That's the I think cheapest we can get in whole of Europe. Live
Okay.
close to the campus. I think spending more time in energetically in classes is more important than being energetic in a party in city
True,
center.
true,
So
true.
I
Yeah.
think yeah, and that too you can have morning classes, so you can find cheap accommodation close to the campus. You can have more energy in your classrooms. You can spend more time working in college, and trust me,
Mm-hmm.
working in college is far more productive than working from home.
Mm-hmm.
So, for my recommendation, I would say I live close to the campus, and I would recommend you guys to live close to the campus. And one more thing
Got it.
about the campus is if you guys are like done with all the process, start. It's hard to find the government accommodation, the cruise,
Mm-hmm.
but try to apply as soon as possible. Try to get it. The accommodation isn't easy to get,
Mm-hmm.
but try to get that accommodation. That can be the cheapest accommodation, and even if you didn't get it, living in private accommodations, private student accommodations is also possible, which also will be a little cheap and a good place to stay. Will also still be my
Got it.
recommendation.
No, because I'm planning of sharing my room with a friend because one of my friends he also got into Marseille on the same campus. So we're planning on sharing a room. So is that possible with cruise? Do they have an option, or is it like just singular rooms for each?
Yeah, I think possible. I'm not sure exactly with the infrastructure of like inside of the KEDGE cruise buildings.
Okay.
Definitely, there are individual rooms. There is a possibility. It's hard to find cruise. I'm still
Okay. Yeah.
repeating that
I'll
again
get.
and again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't be disappointed if you didn't get it, but keep trying, keep trying. You might get it. You might get it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
might able
Cool.
to accommodation like you guys can live together, like your two friends can live together. That is
All right.
possible.
All
Try
right.
to get as soon as possible.
Yeah, yeah, I'll try my best. And one more thing I want to ask you is you told me like the average like pay for an internships, but like for example, like say for like a role like say brand management or product manager, what's like a starting salary?
I think there's a lot of like hot discussions happening around this topic.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our teachers are like KEDGE student. KEDGE is pretty reputed university here in south of France. So some of our teachers, it's a very recent discussion we had with a professor, and according to them, like starting salary should be around 46,000 euros. So
After or
that's
before
a
tax?
really good before tax.
Okay.
But
Okay.
according to this is according to the teacher, because he thinks like everything like it was, I think, a teacher for like negotiations, sales,
Okay.
a teacher of negotiations. So I think he gave us this number of 45, 46,000.
Okay.
But like in reality, I've seen, yeah, that's a little high. That is not what you get mostly when you're starting here in France. If you have a lot of good experience in India, maybe you can have a really good start in salary. But I think, imagine, I don't know, like I'm not sure about this, but I think like around 35K will be a really, really good
Realistically
area to
speaking,
start. If you don't have, yeah, realistically, I think 35 or under 35 could be a really good
35
place to
as in
start
after tax or like before tax?
before tax.
Before tax. Okay, the tax like 30% something, right?
Yeah, I think that's pretty high.
All right. Thank you so much,
All
Daksh, for
right, yeah,
that
cool,
answer.
cool. Yeah, thank you.
Arpita, just add two more things to both of your questions regarding the first one regarding accommodation.
Okay.
So there was an accommodation webinar 2 weeks back by Cynthia. You can check that recording. You also have the contact details of Marseille, Bordeaux, and Paris.
Okay.
Just drop an email to them, the housing team, and tell them that you are coming on so and so date. Even if you don't know the exact date, just give them an approximate date, and they would send you the cruise details, and they would book cruise for you, because cruise cannot be booked by you. You can book any other accommodation. Cruise has to be nominated by the school. So in the webinar as well, it was mentioned by Cynthia that you just drop an email and she will book the cruise for you. Number one. Number two, in Marseille, we also have Alotra. Uh, I have already shared the PDF of Alotra brochure with all of you in the group. If you don't have it, just text on the group again. I'll share it with you again. The average starting price for a studio shared by two people, it's 297 euros. So that's really cheap. So 297 euros, Alotra, barely 5 minutes from campus. So again, second best accommodation. Then, of course, as Daksh mentioned, you can live in city, expect 400 to 500 euros of rent. So just reach out to the accommodation team. They would help you. Regarding the second question that you mentioned about the salaries, for a CDI salary in France, your salary has to be 39,000 euros. If a company
Okay.
offers you CDI, now Daksh talked about CDD. So I'll explain the difference to everyone watching this video about CDI and CDD. So CDI is like a full-time job without any end date of contract. And CDD is a full-time job with an end date to a contract. For example, let's say if you are doing a CDD, you would have a job of 6 months, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, but it would have a deadline to it. Okay, a
Got it.
contract. But if you have a CDI job, then there is no deadline. You get hired, you can work there for your whole life. It's like a permanent job in India in
Got it.
government services, right? Now, if you get a CDI, your salary starts from 39,000 euro. Okay,
Okay.
it cannot be lower than 39. That is a rule in France. But of course, if you get a CDD, your salary could be 35, 36. And it also depends on the domain. Because if you're working in sales, you would have a variable part attached to it. The variable part varies from 10 to 30%. If you're doing a technical job like data analytics, there may not be any variable. So every program would have a different salary. Every candidate would have a different salary. For example, let's say if 10 students are studying MIM program, those 10 students cannot expect the same salary, because they would
True.
have different background, different work experience. They would be applying for different jobs. Somebody would be applying for a multinational, somebody would be applying for a startup. Salaries in Paris are higher than Marseille. Rents are also higher in Paris compared to Marseille. So it depends on a lot of factors. Average salaries are obviously mentioned on the web page. It's definitely between 35 to 45. Anyone can get any figure. I hope that answers your question,
Yeah,
Arpita.
it did. Thanks
Perfect.
a lot. Yeah.
Right. Anybody else who has any questions, please raise your hand. Meanwhile, we'll go to the chat box. We have certain questions for Daksh. Daksh, Soumya says, what is the average cost of living excluding rent in Marseille?
Um, that's a very I guess, like subjective question for everyone. I think some of your people can spend up to like 500 euros, but I think talking specifically to me, if that is me who you guys asking, I will say like 150 euros. It's not that expensive. France is not that expensive. 150 euros. I think 12, 13,000 rupees. That would convert. Around 12,000-13,000 rupees is what you can get to like survive with it. It's good. It's not that expensive to live here. One more thing here, if you want to save expenses, there are so many associations who come up and help students. You can go and like they can give you they can give you like food bundles, like they can give you free veggies, even like a lot of meat product if you were into it. So it's like really diverse and everybody go it. It's not just for like students who are like poor and everything. Every even French students go there to like get a little assistance. So there are like fresh produce farmers or other people donate to get to help students with a rather low level of income. So it's widely accepted here. People go there. You guys can go there. It's a really good experience for going there. So,
Right. Thank you so much, Daksh. Next question is from Suresh. He says, same question, choosing between Bordeaux and Marseille for MIM, which is better? I think it's a very subjective choice, but Daksh, any comments?
okay, so I've not studied in Bordeaux. Campus wise, for sure, Marseille is better. Mm, no, I don't think like it's. I'm no one to like compare. I've never studied in Bordeaux. I just know about campus. I know campus is better, so I'll choose Marseille. I choose Marseille. It'll be simple. But for my next semester, I'll be going to Bordeaux. I will be having that experience of studying in my MIM in Bordeaux. But not for now. I don't know. I don't think I have a good comment for that.
All right. Thank you, Suresh. And thank you, Daksh. Next question from Soumya again. She says, I had a chat with Natalie. She said, KEDGE is not affiliated with Cruise. How do I go about that? Soumya, which I'm not sure this is the case, but if that is the case, because in the webinar, Cynthia did mention that Cruise is affiliated with all the schools, not just one school. Cruise is a public accommodation. It is affiliated with all the schools. So maybe you can do one thing. You can drop an email to Natalie and CC me and we'll check again. That should not be the case. Even if in Marseille, let's say if that's the case, you can go for a Lotra, same prices, 297 euros. You get a studio apartment. You can share it with your friend. Aditya says, could you please describe your routine as an MIM student, like class hours, time for cooking, studying, and leisure?
Mm, okay, so it's like question for intensity, how intense your classes are and how busy you'll be. I would say you won't be that busy, okay? You won't be that busy. You'll have plenty of time to concentrate on one specific subjects. Uh, the classes won't be very intense. Okay? You'll have ton of time, really good time of to cook yourself decently. You don't have to like eat canned food all day. You'll have good time to cook for yourself, time to take care of yourself, take care of your health. Leisure activities, there will be like if you will be coming to specifically to Marseille, there'll be so many parties and it will be super hard for you to ignore them. You'll go to a lot of parties. You'll have a lot of time to socialize with people. Uh, so yeah, the overall balance between socializing, class, and everything is pretty good. It's really good. It's not intense at all. So don't plan to skip a meal to get to the class. It's not gonna happen. It's fine.
Right, perfect. Thank you so much. I don't think we have any questions. If you have any questions, guys, please raise your hand for Daksh, or you can also type in your questions. Just raise your hand or type your question. Meanwhile, Daksh, uh, Arpit, is that you who raised the hand?
Yeah. I have one more question. It's something regarding what you already said. People always say learning French is an actual game changer. So usually you speak A2 level French. So what level of French is actually needed? Because when I talk to people, I hear mixed opinions. Because some of my friends are like studying in different colleges in France. They tell me that you don't necessarily need a business level of French if you're working in, like, say, an MNC like L'Oreal or Amazon or EY. Like, you don't need to know French up to that level. You do need to know basic amount to live there. And sometimes for certain meetings, people might speak in French, but there are others who say that English speaking jobs are almost never available to Indians because there are a lot of people, from other countries fighting for the competition is so high. So it's almost impossible to get such a job. So people end up looking for jobs where in like French speaking companies. So I was wondering if you could shed some light on that topic.
Okay, so thank you so much for this question. About French, I have a very simple philosophy. It's like
Mhm.
in France, the more French you know, better your experience will be. If you know
Okay.
A2, it's like you'll have. If you I speak B1 level of French, you have a little better experience that you will have. And for sure, you will be going to have better experience than me. The more French you know, the more French you try to push yourself to learn, and the more French you practice every day, the more integrated you will be, the more happening your experience will be. So I think just completely take it like that. Having no French at all, okay, still you'll learn a lot of things. Still you'll be able to socialize with a lot of things. But yeah, more French, better it is. And French speaking
Okay.
jobs, I think I did my intern, one of my internship was part French, but talking specifically to the internship where it was completely in English. Yeah, I think working in such organizations, you will might even get that you're working in France. Like
Mhm.
everybody's going to speak in English. You'll feel very involved and connected with everyone. Everybody will be speaking English. That'll be a very amazing place to work. But if
Yeah.
you, I would like have a very double meaning thought. Like if you really want to, if you really want to work in such organization of English speaking, it's good. It's good. But I think my ultimate aim coming to France will be to get to a French speaking company and try to work there. But yeah, English speaking will be really good. I think in UK will be even better if you are specifically looking for experience in English speaking, English speaking companies.
Got it. Got it. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Right. Thank you so much, Daksh, for that answer. Anybody else who has any questions for Daksh, please raise your hand. Or you can also type one question from Prayag. What is the weather like in Marseille? What kind of climate should we
Oh,
expect
your
in
audio
the
is
coming?
cracking, Prayag. Your audio is cracking.
Okay. Daksh, can you hear me?
Okay, yeah, now we can.
Okay, so next question is from Raghav. Raghav says, what is the weather in Marseille? What kind of climate can we expect in September?
September. So yeah, I think in Marseille you get like 300 days of like sunny days. So it's super sunny, it's warm. Marseille winds is a little problematic sometimes. It can get really, really windy, especially very close to the campus. It's mountain and very close to beach. So it can get really windy, but yeah, no snow. Never you're gonna not see snow here. You're gonna see a lot of sun here. Rain is not a very big problem. There is not a lot of rain. So overall, I think the weather and everything, I think this is the best city to live in France. Weather-wise, it'll be perfectly sunny. It won't be too hot. It won't be too cold. Yes, like depending in December, it'll be a little too cold, and in I think June or July, it'll be rather warm. But overall, your average temperature will be very good, very comfortable, and you're gonna love you're gonna love it.
Right. Thank you so much, Daksh. I see we have Anupam typing in the question. Meanwhile, if anybody else has any other questions for Daksh. Meanwhile, we are waiting for Anupam. Daksh, if you could quickly share. Okay, so Anupam has already uh, texted his questions. Question is, hi, Daksh. My question is about the gap year. Was it helpful for the next period of program? Will you suggest that if I can use that 1 year to earn some amount and experience, is it a good idea?
So again, a good question. I did a gap year. I don't know anyone who did a gap year, so I think I was probably the first one who tried this gap year. And after going through the experience, totally a thumbs up. Amazing experience. Perfect, perfect. Like got a break from the studies. Was allowed me to do anything. Looking for internship, doing internship, learning French. Definitely a big recommendation. If you can take a gap year, it will like push you 1 year. It'll make you 1 year slow, but I think for sure for experience, it's gonna make you really really happy. Highly recommend it. Do a gap year.
Right. Thanks, Daksh. Anupam, just to add regarding gap year, this year there were two new things which were related to MIM. So as you already know that now KEDGE requires KEDGE MIM test instead of GMAT for the MIM program. The second update was that MIM is now funded by Prodigy Finance. So earlier it was not possible. So you can also take the loan assistance from Prodigy Finance for MIM. However, Prodigy Finance will only fund your MIM program if you're not going for gap year. But if you're going for gap year, you can still go for gap year in MIM. But in that case, you would have to fund your education with some other bank. So that is the only update that I wanted to give related to KEDGE MIM. In fact, all the MIMs in France. Prodigy Finance would only fund non-gap year MIMs, not the MIM. So, Anupam, first of all, there is no gap year in MSc, right? If anybody is going for gap year, let me confirm again, there is no gap year in MSc because MSc is M1 plus M2 always. M1 is not a degree, M1 is a certificate, M2 is the degree, right? So Daksh is talking about masters in management, and if you are going for masters in management, only then we should be talking about gap year. Okay, otherwise there is no point. Not just at KEDGE, at any school in the world, gap year is always there in MIM, not in any other programs. I hope that answered your question, Anupam. If you have any other questions, please go ahead and raise your hand or probably chat or type in. We have Metri. Metri, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, ask the question to Daksh.
Hi, Daksh. I was wondering if you have any idea about the sports management program in Marseille. Do you have any friends there? Any feedback related to sports?
So yeah, I have quite a few friends there. Overall, I think say the one thing I've heard a million times about sports management is the professors are out of the world. They are the best professors they could ever get. So like I think some of the professors even met really big football players. If you know like Pogba and everything, like they met legendary players, like legendary players. So I think the staff for sports management, I heard it from so many people, is just phenomenal. It's really good if you're going there. And I think second thing is I don't know why, but somehow like the class is very integrated. There is a lot of activities where you can integrate with your class. The class is very integrated. And I think sports management, the overall experience is I think the best. Like, people here just love it. People here just always talk about the course, the culture of their class. International diversity is there. Learning is really good. Connections, you'll make so many good connections. All the professors are so well connected with like the rest of the sporting culture and events. So yeah, it's really good. But one more, I think the problematic thing is I've heard a lot is yeah, people here struggle that like if you want to work here in sports field, mostly in France, French is required, in Spain, Spanish is required. So I think language is a really big problem. You should almost like speak French. It's a little hard. So yeah, these are the two comments I've heard. But not studied.
That was quite helpful. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Metri. Uh, Daksh, did you go to watch any football game? Because the stadium is right there.
Well, I think I spend most of my time in Bordeaux, so no. But I have so many plans. Like I have to go. I have to go to Village. So it's not expensive to go see a match compared to that you're living in France. It's really affordable. You can go, and I think experience will be so good. I'm so tempted to go.
Okay. But there's a football stadium in Bordeaux too. Technically, in all the cities, there are football clubs too, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We have another question from Shubham. Shubham,
Yes, hello Daksh. So I had a question that I've heard that the biggest perk of studying in Europe is like you can work in anywhere in Europe. So is it easier or is it tough to like move a country to work there?
I would say like that's an amazing question. Thank you so much for this question. So I don't know, like Prayag, if you have a different opinion about this, I would say with my experience and with all my friends who got a job in different countries, it's hard. Consider that if you're like I've seen a lot of people, I've seen my friends applying to Puma. They got an internship. They got an email that they'll be getting maybe 1,600 euros. We are celebrating. We celebrated that he got selected, but it's not that easy. It's not that easy to make the shift. Even if it's a big, massive companies like Puma in Germany, there is a possibility that you won't get it with a visa thing happening, or like there could be anything. There is a problematic. With that said, I think there are some people who moved to a different country. It is possible, but I would say it's rather difficult. It's rather difficult. Consider that you're applying the job from India itself. I don't know, maybe consider it's that difficult. Most of
right.
the people I think I know will get a job in France only, but I would say it's hard. It's hard. This is my experience. It's hard. It's almost impossible.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Daksh, for that answer. Shubham, I'd just add a couple of things to that. So your visa allows you not to work in any other European country. It allows you to travel. It will be a Schengen visa that you'll be getting. during your studies, during your internship, during your work permit, you'll be able to travel anywhere. You'll be able to take interviews anywhere. You'll be able to do business as well, business like business meetings, right? But in order to work in a different country, you need the work permit of that respective country. So that is what Daksh is saying. So let's say if you're studying in UK, you get the UK work permit, right? You can't work in Ireland, right? If you get a US work permit, you can't work in Mexico, although both of them are in North America, right? Similarly, if you get a France work permit, it allows you to work in France. But as in the previous webinar, we spoke about the visa policies for different countries. So as we had Meher from Paris campus, she mentioned, and I'm not just quoting her because this is a reality, but she did mention that, for example, certain countries allow you to work for a certain period of time. For example, Netherlands allows up to 1 year if you're going for an internship. So you don't need any other further visa. However, if you're going for Belgium, it only allows 90 days. And your internship can't be 90 days. It has to be more than 90 days. At KEDGE, you have to do minimum 4 months internship, maximum 6 months. So for more than 90 days, you'd have to apply for work permit. Now, if you're going for a job, right? If you're going for a full-time job like CDI or CDD, the company itself will sponsor your visa. But if you're going for an internship, you need to apply for the visa. And as Meher mentioned, you would have the visa assistance team, the career services team at KEDGE. You can obviously reach out to them. Now they have a new database earlier, which was not available. But now there is a new database of which country offers what amount of visa, what countries are eligible for internships for international students, and you can take help to apply for visa, right? That said, even in the KEDGE brochure and career stats on the website, whopping 53% students find internships or jobs in France. And then, of course, you have Asia, you have Middle East, because finding a job in Asia is not tough. I mean, compared to Europe, and getting the work permit as well. Getting a work permit in Dubai is very easy, right? The company sends you the work permit on email, and then, of course, you apply for the residency. Then around 20 to 30% people work in Europe. So you have to apply for the European work permit. So that is what Daksh is talking about. For the work permit of a different country, of course, there is a different process. France government is going to offer you the France work permit. That allows you to travel, but does not allow you to work full time. So you have to apply for a different work permit. I hope that answers your question, Shubham.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Perfect. Anyone else with any final questions?
Prayag,
Anupam?
I just
Yes.
wanted to add to what you said. So if the work is remotely, so say I've applied for a job which is in Netherlands, but it is remote work, so I can still do that from France.
Oh
That
yeah,
is allowed.
absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, what you can, I mean, this would be the best scenario because you have the 2 years APS visa, right? So as soon as you graduate, you apply for the 2 years APS visa, and then of course you can sit at. I know students who graduated in 2018 and stayed in Alotra till 2020 because
Well,
2020 was the year of pandemic. Why Alotra? Because Alotra was cheap. It was 300 euros. They were getting a salary of 3,000 euros for remote work. So if you're doing a remote work, or probably, so a lot of jobs these days in Europe as well after pandemic have changed. They only, they are like 2 days a week or probably 1 day a week. Even in Paris at KEDGE, our colleagues, they only go 3 days a week. So if you have a remote job, then there is no problem. There is no need of work permit. Work permit is only required if you're based in that country. So let's say if you get a job in Netherlands and you're working in Netherlands full time, then you need the Netherlands work permit, not for internship, but for the full-time job, because for internship, 1 year is absolutely free. But for remote work, there is no problem. You have the 2 years APS.
All right, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Anyone?
Daksh, I have one last thing. Could you drop your LinkedIn, or is there any way to contact you in case we have any further doubts or anything to clear? Is that cool if I just call you or get in touch with you for any further queries or anything?
I'll
Daksh?
share you my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'll share you
Daksh.
my LinkedIn.
Yeah, you can share your LinkedIn profile. People can get in touch with you. Anyone
LinkedIn or
else who
your
has any questions?
WhatsApp number, anything that you're comfortable with.
Sure.
Anyone else? Any final questions? Any doubts? Next week we would have, I think, Mandeep joining us, and then we would have more students joining us for the similar sessions, which is Know Your Seniors. But this week we have Daksh. So if you have any questions for Daksh, please go ahead. Yes, next week we have Mandeep on Tuesday, April 18th, same time. Not same time, 7:30 p.m. Mandeep is our marketing alum from Paris. She's from New Delhi, so you would be able to have word with her as well. So last few minutes to go. Any final questions for Daksh? Anyone? And if you don't have any questions, Daksh, what are your final recommendations and suggestions for everyone who is coming to Marseille, especially this September?
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing I've seen is like people are more worried to find a job. I think first is to like just be ready for the cultural shock and the experience because it'll be really groundbreaking from you. I think after you'll come here and work and study in France, I think going back to India will be like a little less spicy for you. You'll ask for more. You'll ask for more. It'll be so good. And I think one more thing is getting a job here. You'll hear it from everyone. I'm just telling you, it'll be hard. It'll be hard. There's no buts and ifs. It is hard. It is hard to find an internship or a job here. But the thing is, finding internship and job will be like, I think for me it will be like life changing. It will be like so good, such a great experience. I did internships and jobs in India. It was nothing like anything. It was so good. The overall experience, the connections I made, the learnings I had, out of this world. So I think if you're looking out for something, if it's it's like if it's not hard, it's not like worth it. So I think it's hard because it's worth it. So keep pushing, keep trying. You will get a job.
Thank
You will
you.
get a job. Everything.
Thank you, Daksh.
And
You made it sound like the ad of Hrithik Roshan that says "Dar ke aage jeet hai." But anyway,
oh my
thank you so much. Thank you so much,
God,
Daksh, for
that
your
wanted
wonderful
you.
words, your time, your suggestions. I hope that inspires, motivates a lot of students, especially coming to Marseille and Bordeaux and Paris. Thank you, everyone, for joining in on such a busy day. Once again, thank you so much, everyone. We look forward to meeting with you very soon. We will look forward to welcoming you in Marseille this September and June. Daksh has already shared his LinkedIn profile, so please feel free to reach out to him. Don't bug him, but of course you can just reach out to him with your questions. For any other questions, feel free to reach out to me. We'll be sharing this recording with everyone in the WhatsApp group of admits and aspirants. Until next week, thank you so much. Take good care of yourself. Once again, thank you so much for joining in. Daksh, thanks a lot, man. Take good care. All the best.
Everyone, have a good day. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.